We are coming to you from Luperon, Dominican Republic, after leaving the boat on anchor for 5 months. And it's just about sunset. Later in the episode, we'll share some of the key factors as to why we were able to successfully leave our boat on anchor for 5 months in a foreign country and come back to it just as we left it.
I don't know what you want me to say. You missed my squeal, but here we are. She's still here, the outboard's still here, we're here. Feels like a dream. Inside, check it out.
We left the outboard right there mounted. She's still there. So we've been up for about 48 hours. We caught a plane in Florida late around 9 o'clock, and we flew to New York and had an 8-hour layover in New York, and then flew here, and we had to barter with the taxi. But this wasn't our first rodeo, and we did great. Michael's killing it. And then we caught 2 guaguas, and then we hiked quite a ways, and then got picked up by some sailors. And then we just walked to the dock, and the first guy that Michael asked, Carl, gave us a ride in his dinghy, and we've just boarded Jacques Mate.
I suspect Jolly Holly might have left us some rollers. Did we pick up rollers?
Rollers?
We've got paint rollers.
Paint rollers. Oh, yeah. Those look new.
They look like they've got another adventure paint on them.
Oh, they do. Must be for the bottom job coming up.
Thanks, Holly.
And here's the big news. Big news. We left our battery bank on both. We left the solar panels connected. I don't know if you can see that up there. And battery bank 1. Almost to 14 volts. Battery bank 2, almost to 14. And we've tested, the anchor light burned out because we left the anchor light on. But cabin lights we've tested. And kicking on right out the gate. The inverter powers right up. So those are the big things. The outboard was still here. The batteries are still functioning.
Joel's just about to give up on his 20th or 30th try, and she fires up out of nowhere. Hey, Johnson, she's back.
So when we stored our dinghy, we kind of folded it all up. And this right here, this was creased. It got really hot inside the boat. And so you can see it's separated right here, and that's all the way into the tube right there. So air's coming out right here. So we are going to first patch this inside down here, patch this over the top, and then we're gonna patch this on top of that. And then after that, we're gonna put a big square patch over this entire area, and hoping that works. We patched it pretty good, and then we had it in the water and everything was working good. And then as it got hot, we started to hear the air leaking out. Michael heard it, and so we had it ready for a quick abort, I guess you could say, and we pulled the outboard off and threw it up here and pulled the dinghy up, and we're gonna patch it again. So we only let it sit for a whole day, and we're gonna put a bigger patch on it, see what happens. Our neighbor Alan from Salina Cay dropped off this contact cement for us to try out. We've got our first meal since back at the boat. Michael, what do you got going?
Some basic beans and rice. Cooked the beans all afternoon in our super awesome Go Sun. Now we're just throwing them in with some Uncle Ben's cheese and broccoli rice.
Cool.
Most of our food is pretty much needing to be thrown away, but the stuff that was left in our vacuum sealed containers is looking pretty good, so we're gonna give it a shot here.
Once we got the Johnson mounted and we pulled the cord here, you can see right here, I put duct tape on it just to get it going, so we could test it and see if the Johnson actually started, and it did. But right here it just came frayed apart, so the heat really damaged it. Luckily we have an extra one here, so I am about to replace that. We're gonna start by removing these 3 bolts. Quick little tip. This was very difficult to do. For some people, they might have to take this whole unit off. We duct taped the end of this line to the end of this, fed it through here while Michael was holding this, and then with the tickle stick, I had to jam it through here because this 90-degree angle right here is very difficult to feed this through, but we successfully did it. So now time to tie the knot.
Our friend Georgie on Cabernet recommended this little spot to get fresh produce, the Haitian market. Okay, so we just paid for a SIM card, 100 pesos for the SIM card, and we bought 10 days unlimited data for 300 pesos here at Altice. This place is easy to find. You just go to the docks, the Luperon City docks, not the marina. You walk straight up the street till you get to 27 de Febrero, which is the busiest street. You can't miss it. Motorbikes flying everywhere. And this place is on the right. We'll see how it works.
Michael has been hard at work. She's gone through this whole area here where all the food was, totally cleaned it up. We just did some provisioning today. Found a sweet market. Got a bunch of vegetables. Now to reorganize the port side storage. It didn't work for those guys either. How does he do it? Oh. Aha! So Michael's been hard at work. We took this off, cleaned underneath it. You can see there's absolutely nothing in here. It's all out here. Everything. Why don't you tell him about our discovery on pesos we exchanged at the airport?
Yeah, so I read on TripAdvisor that a good spot to exchange our dollars for pesos would be the booth just after the customs counter coming through the airport at Puerto Plata. There we got an exchange rate of 41 pesos to $1. Sounds pretty good, right? Except for the current exchange rate is closer to 50 to 1. And in Luperon today, we randomly stopped in somewhere that advertised the exchange currencies, euros, dollars, pesos, Swiss francs, I don't know, a bunch of stuff. And we got a rate that was 49.6 something. Anyway, really close to 50 to 1. So we exchanged about $100 there. So next time we'll know. Stay away from the tourist traps.
It's time. It's time to jump in. Luperon, they call it Pooperon. The visibility is not great.
That was a nice crab.
Okay, so one big factor is the style of anchoring, and I used the exact same style in Key West when I left the boat for about 5 months as well. It's called Bohemian mooring, and in this episode I demonstrate exactly how it is that I do that. It was very important to use the same anchoring technique here because it's a very tight mooring. You don't have much room to swing, and so basically when you anchor it this way, it's as if you're on a mooring ball. And we are exactly where we were, and with not much room to swing in either direction. So that was a big factor.
Another big move was who we had around us. So on our port side is a couple who's been instrumental in changing the perception of Luperon, making it a safer place for cruisers, reporting any theft, any people getting on boats unauthorized. They are very close to us, and I think that had a big impact. Another good factor was having Cabernet on our port side. They were taking pictures, looking at our boat. They even helped us get it scraped a couple months into us being gone. So we had activity, you know, we had people around who were looking after our boat.
And in her defense, both could be on our port side depending on how we swing, because I know she said both of those guys were on our port side.
Well, when the trade winds come through.
Right. But at this moment, they're on, yeah, anyways. Sorry. That was confusing, I thought.
Sorry.
It's fine.
So another big factor was where we're at. I mean, with our depth, we couldn't go just anywhere. There weren't many areas in the harbor that were available. Originally, we'd considered tying up in Love Canal, which is undisputedly the safest place in Luperon Harbor, where all the boats go when a hurricane is coming through. So tying up in the mangroves back there would have been the best security, but then we heard multiple accounts of when your boat is closer to land, it's much more accessible and thus much more likely for somebody to board unauthorized. Therefore, we decided that being out in open waters would be the better option, and we would just go with a lot of anchors to make sure that she stayed stable and wasn't going anywhere.
Right. So also a big element was luck, because the very first morning that we woke up on Choc Mate, a catamaran, who is a good friend of ours, and it happens to all of us, but he went sliding by us pretty quick. Well, that was the second morning. I'm sorry. The first morning, he swung and just kind of kissed us and actually bumped into us, and I was able to jump off of my boat onto his pretty quickly, pretty easily, and then I helped him move his boat and reset anchor. So, you know, no telling what Choc Mate was going through while we were gone. We also heard that at least one boat a month, and earlier in the season there was 2 to 3 boats a month that were chafing, usually hooked to mooring balls, the ones that had been there for a while, and the lines were breaking and they were just going free, drifting back. So part of that was luck, because none of them drifted into us. We also took that into account when we anchored here, and from the trade winds, you know, so to the east of us there's really only one boat, and then there's mangroves, so there's not a lot of boats that were upwind of us in the most common wind, which is the trade winds
From the east.
from the east. So that was a big factor, which was luck, but we, again, didn't put ourselves behind a whole bunch of boats for that reason. So
yeah, to be fair, it worked out in our favor, but this is kind of the don't try this at home style. There was a lot of consideration that played into Luperon itself being a great hurricane hole as far as the rest of the Caribbean is concerned, and a really affordable option for us. However, I'm sure that there have been many people who have left their boats here that weren't quite so lucky. So here's some of the reasons why we did it, but not necessarily suggesting that it's the best option for everyone.
These are the tales of Boab.
Boats on a boat. B-O-A-B, baby, we're B-O-A-B, baby, we're B-O-A-B.